Israel's attacks on Iran hint at a bigger goal: regime change. Jerusalem. Israel's surprise attack on Iran had an obvious goal of sharply disrupting Tehran's nuclear program and lengthening the time it would need to develop an atomic weapon. But the scale of the attacks, Israel's choice of targets, and its politicians' own words suggest another, longer-term objective: toppling the regime itself. The strikes early on Friday hit not just Iran's nuclear facilities and missile factories, but also key figures in the country's military chain of command and its nuclear scientists, blows that appear aimed at diminishing Iran's credibility both at home and among its allies in the region, factors that could destabilize the Iranian leadership, experts said. One assumes that one of the reasons that Israel is doing that is that they're hoping to see regime change, said Michael Singh of the Washington Institute for Near East Policy and a former senior official under President George W. Bush. It would like to see the people of Iran rise up, he said, adding that the limited civilian casualties in the initial round of attacks also spoke to a broader aim. In a video address shortly after Israeli fighter jets began striking Iranian nuclear facilities and air defense systems, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu appealed to the Iranian people directly. Israel's actions against Iran's ally Hezbollah had led to a new government in Lebanon and the collapse of the Assad regime in Syria, he said. The Iranian people had an opportunity too. I believe that the day of your liberation is near, and when that happens, the great friendship between our two ancient peoples will flourish once again, said Netanyahu. But despite the damage inflicted by the unprecedented Israeli attack, decades of enmity towards Israel, not only among Iran's rulers but its majority Shia population, raises questions about the prospect for fomenting enough public support to oust an entrenched theocratic leadership in Tehran backed by loyal security forces. Singh cautioned that no one knows what conditions would be required for an opposition to coalesce in Iran. Friday's assault was the first phase of what Israel said would be a prolonged operation. Experts said they expected Israel would continue to go after key Iranian nuclear infrastructure to delay Tehran's march to a nuclear bomb, even if Israel on its own does not have the capability to eliminate Iran's nuclear program. Iran says its nuclear program is for civilian purposes only. The UN nuclear watchdog concluded this week that it was in violation of its obligations under the Global Non-Proliferation Treaty. Israel's first salvos targeted senior figures in Iran's military and scientific establishment, took out much of the country's air defense system, and destroyed the above-ground enrichment plant at Iran's nuclear site. U.S. President Donald Trump's administration, while acquiescing to Israel's strikes and helping its close ally fend off Iran's retaliatory missile barrage, has given no indication that it seeks regime change in Tehran. Dismantling nuclear facilities, Israel has much further to go if it is to dismantle Iran's nuclear facilities, and military analysts have always said it might be impossible to totally disable the well-fortified sites dotted around Iran. The Israeli government has also cautioned that Iran's nuclear program could not be entirely destroyed by means of a military campaign. There's no way to destroy a nuclear program by military means, Israel's national security advisor, Tzachi Hanegbi, told Israel's Channel 13 TV. The military campaign could, however, create conditions for a deal with the United States that would thwart the nuclear program. Analysts also remain skeptical that Israel will have the munitions needed to obliterate Iran's nuclear project on its own. Israel probably cannot take out completely the nuclear project on its own without the American participation, Sima Shine, a former chief Mossad analyst and now a researcher at Israel's Institute for National Security Studies, said. While setting back Tehran's nuclear program would have value for Israel, the hope for regime change could explain why Israel went after so many senior military figures, potentially throwing the Iranian security establishment into confusion and chaos. These people were very vital, very knowledgeable, many years in their jobs, and they were a very important component of the stability of the regime. Specifically, the security stability of the regime, said Shine. In the ideal world, Israel would prefer to see a change of regime. No question about that, she said. But such a change would come with risk, said Jonathan Panikoff, a former U.S. deputy, national intelligence officer for the Middle East who is now at the Atlantic Council.